Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are again, our unnamed podcast. Greeting all of you. My name is Anna again, your host, talking here, and my co-host, Sean.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Sean. We are going to be discussing today a very interesting topic, marrying into a different culture. So, what makes you tick when it comes to a partner? What attracts you to the other person? Whatever floats your boat, that'll be something interesting. Do you know any relationships that are successful of intermix race cultures? And I will start with asking Sean a very important question.
Fire.
Do you have any experience with falling in love with somebody that was not from your own culture?
Just a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit.
So what made you be attracted to this other person? Was it the culture? Was it physically different?
Look, I would say from my perspective, I wasn't particularly looking for something unique about another culture. I mean, that it's not the culture itself that attracted me. I just happened to be attracted to the person that I met. They were feminine. They were... That's it.
I think with that I would say that you are that fact is I believe that is probably very common with men. Men tend to not pick so much someone that's from a different culture, but they just go for what
floats our boat.
Aesthetic, yes, pretty, or they feel attracted to. I'm not sure if I'm wrong in this to say that maybe us women are a little bit more picky and choosy when it comes to our partners. Maybe we do go for a different culture. Sometimes we love to stay within our own cultures, but many of us just decide to go for slightly different culture. Sometimes it's because we may have felt a little bit oppressed with our own cultures.
What do you mean by that?
For example, if you come from a culture where you can see, and these days especially, you can see through the internet that brings everything to the tip of your finger. You can see that people in other countries, the women behave in a different way to your own culture, and the men behave in a different way that they behave in your own cultures. You could be in your head be thinking like in the Hollywood movies, wouldn't you like to, who wouldn't like to have somebody that was more bringing flowers to the girl, be able to cook a meal for the girl, things like that are probably perhaps different to the culture that you grew up in.
So you're just, sorry to interrupt, but just since this is what it is, it's a podcast, we chat.
Yeah.
But you're Colombian.
Yes.
I think I've established that.
Are you Australian?
I am, thank you. Are you telling me that any guys that you met in Colombia, they wouldn't bring you flowers, or they wouldn't... those things that you said you were looking for, are you saying they were not available in your own culture? Because that, to me, would seem a fairly basic level of...
No, I wouldn't just say all of them. No, obviously not. Mm-hmm. I had really lovely experience as I was growing up in Colombia, and something that I actually had not seen since I left Colombia, and it was my mom and dad were married for many years, and of course there was arguments and disagreements between them that I was aware of, but my dad would always bring serenades, which is very old-fashioned,
yeah,
but still is going on in Colombia, even if it's old-fashioned for the West culture.
Describe what like, I've got a mental picture of a serenade.
So serenades will be a group of, like, the man usually will pay some musicians that come and sing outside your house after 12 o'clock.
After
midnight.
12 o'clock? Oh, wow.
It has to be about midnight.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, why does it have to be midnight? That's really interesting.
Because you try to get the girl to go to sleep nicely, and then you wake her up from her dream to this romantic, beautiful violin and maybe some guitars and some voice singing a love song.
Doesn't the neighborhood find that annoying?
They absolutely love it. And everybody knows, oh, you know, here we go, such and such is getting married, or maybe it's like an anniversary thing. And usually, if like the guy is really bad at singing, they will just see the guy standing there with a bunch of flowers, just anxiously looking up. And it used to be, my mom said this, they used to have to turn the light on and off to let the guy know that the girl is actually awake. And the girl knows that they're there, and she's probably rushing to brush her teeth, put a little bit of makeup on, and do her hair. And eventually, like maybe after 3 songs, the girl would let the guys in, and they would carry on singing inside the house. And people would know this. Even the neighbors would probably, if they were awake, or they would come and join.
This is a common occurrence in Colombia.
It's not so common anymore. But
really?
Yeah, but it is. I mean, if you're really, really romantic, you still do it. But this is something that I missed. Once I even had somebody once singing outside. It was really beautiful. Oh. And I just think that personally, I think any woman would agree with me that they would love that surprise. They'd probably just be laughing, but they would absolutely love a guy that had the guts to do that. Yeah. Especially if they're singing and they don't know how to sing. That would be hilarious. But just join and go,
so you enjoy the hilarity as well.
Yes, it will be really nice.
What would your mum and dad think, though? Like, if I assume you're at home with your mum and dad in Colombia, but they're in on the jokes? I've got my fingers up, inverted commas, or what if they're unhappy with the guy, like, for any reason, like that, you know? No,
usually you take a serenade when you are being accepted, I think, by the family. You wouldn't just be a random guy.
Right.
They've been dating for a little while, and then he just like gets this romantic idea, and they do that. So that's one thing that I would probably say that I do miss, and I never had it anywhere in any country. Maybe they do it maybe Argentina, maybe Italy, I don't know, Spain. I think that I would miss that. But other than that, there's a few things that I would say I really liked about all the cultures where the men would probably know how to cook, and that's very attractive. Many men in Colombia do know how to cook, but basically I think the economy and all this studying constantly kind of like takes away that part of being independent. And when you go to developed countries, men are more independent quicker. They leave possibly the house 16, 18, and they learn how to do just about everything. So when they meet a woman, a young girl, they will be able to do pretty much everything. And that is attractive for a girl. It is, especially if the man knows how to cook well. That's a big, big tick.
Now, that's interesting that you're talking about Western cultures, guys leaving their family home 16 to 18. Like, you and I are, well, I don't know about you. You look vastly younger than me, but I'm in my 50s. When I was 16 to 18, that was common. But it seems to be now guys are staying at home a lot later, either due to the financial pressure or, I don't know, perhaps they're not as well prepared, Anna. What do you think?
I think they're still very much like that, I think. I don't think they are dependent on the mom cooking anymore. I think even the mom will turn around and say, like, it's your turn. Even if you live at home, you have to cook today, you have to do this. But I think in Latin American countries, most of the time, I'm not going to say every single place and every single family in every single country is the same. But they would probably hire somebody that would come and wash the clothes, maybe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you still are able to possibly afford a little bit of that help because most of the time you need both parents to work full-time and able to support the family. Whether in Western countries, this is what I've noticed many times, the mom will be either part-time or stay-at-home mom and do everything for the children. But anyway, I think we're going in a different direction that I was just going. So I think what is attractive is sometimes people are attracted to completely different cultures because it's the difference that attracts, like opposite attracts. So that was the case possibly with me. Because maybe I was very independent and I wanted somebody that was as independent as I was.
Because you were very well travelled.
Yes, and I was able to maybe compare the differences. And I grew up in a family with boys and very strict, religiously strict and very traditional, where men were not expected to do a lot of work. Basically, it was expected for them to finish the studies and then go straight to university and from university to work. So they never had to learn how to cook or do anything else because it was expected that the wife or the mom would do all those things for them. That was back in my times. Now I think it's a little bit different. Still, the guys will probably hire somebody, even if they are independent and they live separate from mom and dad and everybody else. They will probably still make enough money, possibly, to hire somebody and do that for them,
Okay.
So,
do you think that's typical across the whole of Latin America?
I think it's pretty much, yes. Maybe now the really young generation, like the ones that are just going through high school, are growing up in a different way. But I believe that the ones 20 and something are probably the same.
Okay. So we are a little bit off track, but what are some of the other things that would make you consider someone of a different culture to have a relationship with?
It would be the way they look. You can be attractive physically to somebody that looks different to you.
True.
But as I said, it just depends these days. I think I can't say that it's just more men than women. Usually guys tend to just like somebody that's feminine and whatever it is. They don't really pay attention so much about culture or anything like that. The girls are a little bit more like, if I marry this guy, he's not going to be able to do this, or he's probably going to achieve this, or maybe he won't do this, or maybe he's a little bit cold, or is not romantic, or he's not going to be able to do this. So we really do think, I'm talking for all the girls, I may be wrong, that we do think before we get involved with the guy. Do
you think guys are that, let's say, that particular about what they're looking for? Do you think, as a general rule, most women are that particular about someone they're looking for? Like, do you think, I suppose really what my question is, if you're out looking to meet someone, are you specifically looking to meet someone from another culture, or it's something that inadvertently happens? It's not necessarily you were planning to find someone from, I don't know, from the UK or America or Sweden.
I think these days as well, because it's so easy now to get on a plane and just fly across the whole world. That is more probable that people are just liking each other more. And that's a good thing. It's actually a very good thing. However, I think if it's a traditional background, the girls are more likely to go back to the roots and trying to find somebody that they probably know a little bit more of.
Do you think that's from parental pressure, or do you think that's actually what they want?
It could be parental pressure.
Because I may be completely wrong here and out of line.
It could be cultural. It could be societal as well.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like, say, people from the Middle East. I can't imagine too many. I mean, it does happen.
Yeah.
I mean, Australia is a very interesting melting pot of cultures. You know, possibly there's only a few other countries around the world that have quite the mixture that we have in Australia, that people that actually don't just visit here but actually live here and call it home. But I can't imagine, say, if you're from Iran, Iraq, or, you know, one of the other Middle Eastern, you know, Israel, Jordan, any of those, you know, countries where the women from there are specifically looking to meet, say, a guy from Russia or a guy from, you know, Australia for that matter.
I think there is a difference between the West and the East. I think the East is more traditional. And in many ways, I think that's really, really good. Because I think once we started thinking that borders were not useful anymore, many cultures started to mix. And I agree with many of these policies, but I disagree with many others because it brings an awful lot of problems as well. It's a good thing, but it's also a very problematic thing. It's a little bit more political. And I don't know if we want to go
We'll save that for another one.
Yes, exactly. So do you have any regrets? And of course, you guys can put all in your comments any experiences that you have had in the past or that you still live in today, about your own relationships. If you would like us to discuss any of these things, it's a topic that we can probably do a podcast as well, and talk about these things. But specifically, you know, Sean is here. Do you have any regrets with the experience that you have in your life about, you know, marrying to different culture? Would you prefer to just stay with Australian people?
That's a really good question.
If you can turn the clock back, would you?
I think if you can be sure you understand the person, who they are, and what's involved in that culture, I don't think it's a problem. I mean, look, it's very person independent. Like, you might meet someone from a different culture that's actually spent the majority of their life in the country that you've grown up in. Like in Australia, we have a lot of people from Asia, and, you know, there's even across the ditch, people from New Zealand, which, while very, very similar to us, there are differences. You know, there's philosophical differences on some things, cultural differences. There's a heavy cultural sensibility from people from New Zealand, probably more so than what we have here in Australia. So there are differences. I don't have a problem with meeting or having relationships with people from other cultures, but I think it's a little bit of, you have to realise what you're getting into, and perhaps some of those differences can become problematic if they're not dealt with properly. Like in your personal situation, did you actually have to compromise more? Do you think that you compromise more than the other person compromise? Or I don't think I compromise more. I think it's the same either way. I mean, maybe they're coming over here and they haven't been here before, so they're coming to Australia. This is my country, the one I grew up in, the one I have the experience in, the one I know the most about. If I go to their country, it's the opposite situation. They have the comfort of being in their own culture. So
you don't think that you have to compromise?
Oh, I think you do have to compromise. I think you both.
I think so.
I think you both have to compromise. I think there's got to be a certain level of acceptance. I mean, speaking from my perspective, one of the things that I've looked back at was when you get to know someone, sometimes things that you assume are cultural are not cultural. They're just their personality or
That's your
characteristics.
personality, yeah.
Yes. If that's the case, then I'm probably more understanding of cultural differences than I would be personality differences. Like, for example, if you like certain things done a certain way, and it's because culturally that's how you grew up, I personally would be more, okay, well, that's the way you've always grown up. That's the way things are done. If it's like a personal preference, it's more open for debate. Maybe I like my socks washed this way, and you like your socks washed that way. That's not a cultural issue. That's just a personality issue. That's something that I think needs to be talked about and worked out, rather than perhaps being if it was a cultural issue, I'd be more compromising and more flexible.
Yep. I think when you get involved with somebody from a completely different culture, that you had not done your research and perhaps have not thought through thoroughly what you're getting yourself into, can lead you to be in a relationship where there's going to be nothing but upheavals and a lot of arguments, because basically that I suppose that you are basing your relationship in just pure attraction. But then there's these cultural differences that will make a relationship almost impossible. And we know that, many people, I, for one, maybe made a mistake thinking that, even when you go through your research and you go like, yeah, this person is from a different culture, is slightly different, but I kind of understand. And then you get into really knowing the culture and you discover that, perhaps I was wrong. There are deeper rooted cultural differences.
Are they cultural, though, at that point? Are they?
Some of them are really cultural. Like, I would say people that were involved with the First World War and the second, the parents were different in the way that they were raised. And sometimes people from Latin America would not understand the hardship that the grandparents or their parents went through, and then we are not able to understand, no matter do we try to understand, but that gives you a completely different attitude towards problems.
That's true.
Sometimes making us believe that person perhaps, and it's not their personality, but it comes across as a personality when there's a very popular saying is just like, get on with it. And we would probably think, because we haven't been in that situation, oh, well, this person is just being very cold. But maybe that's not the way they are. It's just the way that they were raised.
True.
But underneath, they're still very sensitive. But it can create a very big problem if you don't know the culture.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Also, talking about that, once you pass this first part of the relationship, and okay, it's only you and her, right? And so far, you kind of like compromise and you dance this dance of love and life together for a little while, and you decide that actually you want to get married, right? You think that you can, yes, I know her culture, or yes, I know his culture, they're different, but we understand each other. But then the kids come. And I think that is more problematic in itself. personally, from my experience. Because then if you have not discussed this previously, and sometimes you do let your heart rule the way that you live your life. Well, ladies, don't do that. Because if you let your heart rule, everything that you do, you're going to be making big mistakes. You have to discuss with your boyfriend or lover, companion, how you are going to raise the children, what culture is going to be the prominent, and religion comes into that little plot
I was
as
going
well.
to mention that before. That is a very significant part of any relationship, whether you're Christian, Muslim, agnostic, atheist, whatever you happen to be. It can have a real overriding effect on the relationship if you're both not of the same belief system. And, my own personal relationships, that hasn't been an issue, but I have known people that have, one person was a Christian, another person was an atheist, and that was very problematic.
Yep. Or if they believe in a different God,
yes,
that can cause problems as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how would you manage that, do you think?
Look, for me, I would find that very difficult personally. I probably would think twice about getting into a relationship with someone who had a fundamentally different belief system than I did, because it's such a. I'm a Christian, and I would find that very, very difficult to have a complete life with someone who had a completely different foreign belief system than I did. If you weren't a Christian like me, it would automatically create a lot of problems with things that we did around the home, things that we did when we went out, what we do with our time on the weekends, what our priorities would be. And look, maybe it wouldn't in some of those, but I think for me personally, yes, our religion, our beliefs, our the belief structures that we implement in our home, that would be, you need to be bound together. You need to have, especially in a marriage situation, you need to have same fundamental understanding of what you're going to do around things like children, like you said, just how you spend your time.
Definitely.
What you believe in. Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree with you. I think personally, I know a few couples where but they decided to agree, for example, the first part of the education about the children, and they compromise. Okay, you believe in this, I believe in that. So what if we just choose a school where they're going to learn the beliefs that I have for the first, 10, 11 years of their life. And then when they grow older, we can just give them a choice, perhaps just discuss what the question of religion, maybe a little bit young to discuss this, but usually some parents do. What would you like to choose? Would you like this or that? And that has created many good things, I guess, came from discussing with the child.
The discussion or the choice?
Is you first of all, obviously, you have to discuss it with the child and between the two of you, and then decide, according to what the child wants as well, what you want to do. I know many couples that decided to go for something completely none of what she wants or him, but something that's completely neutral.
They picked option 3.
Yes,
yeah, well,
completely neutral,
okay.
Depending of the child, which I think is probably the best as well. And they probably choose something like this Steiner school where
I see. Yeah, okay.
There's freedom of religion and kind of freedom of choice. They don't push or impart any kind of religion. They just let the children come to their own choices in more or less everything. They just guide them through. And I believe that's one of the best educations are out there.
How do you feel about the principle? I mean, I suppose we're staying on this point a little bit, but like in Christian, in the Bible, for example, it talks about being unequally yoked.
I'm a Christian, by the way, guys, if you didn't know. Sorry.
Yeah. What do you think about that idea of being unequally yoked? Like, what do you think that applies to?
I think in the context of being a Christian.
Well, in a marriage situation.
Yeah, if you take those words literally, I believe what they're saying is you'll have to marry somebody that's equally to your beliefs. If you are not a Christian, I think it means that you have to marry somebody that shares your own values. And listen, you don't need to have a religion to be a decent person. I have met plenty of people that are atheists or agnostics, and they're pretty decent people. And so they're, couples in general, and they have done an excellent job with the children as well. So I think that's just finding an easier partner rather than a difficult one that you don't share the values and morals with. That's what I believe it means.
It is already difficult to begin with. Like, take two individual people.
I think marriage is difficult anyway.
Yeah, it's difficult anyway. You might as well start with the best opportunity between two people rather than make it difficult off the bat.
So, in that note, I think we're just going to make it short. And guys, if you have any questions about this topic, if you want to tell us your story, and we can probably just discuss a little bit more about what your experience has been like. And if you would like any advice or anything from us, any opinions, please feel free to comment. And we hope to see you soon, guys. Please tune in with us next week, same time. Thank you for now.
Bye.
Bye.